And welcome back to Hannity. Now, although the president believes the IRS targeting conservatives is a, quote, phony scandal, the investigation is now far from over, and things may have just gotten a whole lot bigger. House Oversight Committee Chairman Darrell Issa is now demanding records of any communication that could suggest inappropriate coordination between the IRS and the Federal Election Commission. Now, in a letter to the FEC and that chairman, he wrote in part, quote, documents recently produced to the committee demonstrate that FEC personnel communicated with IRS personnel about tax-exempt groups engaged in political activities. Now, it also gets worse. The chairman cited specific emails between an FEC official and embattled IRS official Lois Lerner, who also happens to be a former FEC employee. Coincidence? I think not. Here with reaction from the American Center for Law and Justice, Jay Sekulow, Democratic strategist, Steve Murphy. Steve, before we get to this new information, can we just get out of the way targeting American citizens or groups because of their political views is not a phony scandal? Can we just get that on the table from you?
Well, if that's what happened, sure, it's not a phony scandal, but that's not what happened. There's absolutely nothing wrong with what we're talking about right here.
Right.
If the FEC knows about tax-exempt money being used on behalf of partisan candidates, they should tell the IRS that because it's not legal.
Is that why Lois Lerner pled the fifth?
There's only one problem with that. That's against the law. You can't do that. The IRS cannot share taxpayer information.
Any citizen can tell the IRS about a law violation.
Well, that's you know, Steve, you can yell, but it's not a citizen. It's two governmental agencies. There's specific provisions in the Internal Revenue Code that prohibit sharing of taxpayer information with groups like the FEC. The FEC is not exempt. There are a list of groups that are exempt. The FEC is not one of them. That's number one. Number two,
you're defending
it was the Attorney General of the United States, Eric Holder.
Dollars for politics,
you keep cutting me off, but let me just give you some facts. Eric Holder is the one who said there may well be criminal investigations. And, Sean, I'm representing, as you know, 41 of the groups. We have a motion from the United States Department of Justice that says they need an extension of time. Why? Because of criminal investigations of IRS officials. So that's pretty clear that the government, although we haven't been contacted by anybody by the FBI, but they are at least saying that there's an investigation. Number three, the Lois Lerner email back and forth to the FEC lawyer was going on when there was not even an authorized FEC investigation. That has to be authorized by the commission. So you know what the answer is, Steve? No wonder she took the Fifth Amendment. She committed acts that may well be criminal.
I want to ask Jay one more. Hang on, Jay, I want to ask you one more question. Explain, though, the law as it relates to the collusion between the FEC and the IRS. Explain it.
There are particular provisions of the Internal Revenue Code. Remember, Sean, I came out of the IRS Chief Counsel's office a long time ago when I got out of law school. But believe me, the rules are very clear on this and have been. A government agency like the IRS cannot share taxpayer information, including ongoing investigations, audit information, with the FEC as an entity. That's not legal. Number two, by the way, to Steve's point, the IRS cannot share taxpayer information that it has with a private citizen either. Those are criminal acts by government officials if they do them. Number three, the FEC did not authorize an investigation here, so they weren't even involved in an investigation, but in no case can they share that information, period. There's no exemption.
All right, Steve?
You're making the point that the IRS can't share information with the FEC, and Issa is accusing the FEC of having it go the other way around. There is nothing wrong with the FEC.
The email came from the FEC to Lois Lerner. Lois Lerner back.
The FEC providing that, and you're just arguing in favor of a gigantic loophole for tax-exempt money to be used for political campaigns.
No, I'm arguing,
yes, you are. That's what you're defending.
Hundreds
of millions of dollars of supposed charitable money is going for political campaigns.
It was President Obama who came out and said, Steve, President Obama came out and said, this is outrageous, this is wrong, people will be held accountable.
Eric
Holder said it was criminal. And now you're saying, this is no big deal that the FEC is getting information from the IRS.
There may be parts that are wrong. There is nothing wrong, though, with investigating whether charitable money goes for charity.
Jay, finish your thought.
Go ahead, Jay.
Okay, so it's very clear. The IRS, despite Steve's protests to the contrary, cannot legally share information with the FEC.
Agreed.
Period.
It's the
That's
FEC
the end of the story.
information.
The FEC cannot ask for and receive it. No, the IRS, Lois, did you read the emails? Lois Lerner responded as to the tax status of the group that the FEC unauthorized representative was engaging in. She responded. And that's why she took the Fifth Amendment. Do you think she took the Fifth Amendment because she just felt like it, or because maybe her lawyers evaluated the situation and said, you know what, Lois, you better take the Fifth Amendment here. You don't want to incriminate yourself.
Just be happy you have the Citizens United loophole created by an execrable decision by the Supreme Court that allows these hundreds of millions of dollars
have this,
to be
you know,
spent.
the organizations on the left have been utilizing 501c4s
you
for
want
decades.
It both ways. And the IRS should examine
now I want the law
whether
applied.
or not they should examine whether it's legitimately charitable expenditures or whether it's for partisan politics.
Well, good. Then
that's
then the IRS should ask those questions. But that's not the questions they asked. You know, that's not the questions the Internal Revenue Service asked. That's the problem
that's
here.
What
they
we're
didn't ask what your activity was. They wanted to know what books you read, who your donors were, and what your positions were on particular issues.
All right, guys, we got to leave it there.
Read the law, Steve. I suggest you start with reading the Internal Revenue Code. That might help you understand what's going on.
I don't want to be a lawyer. I'll leave that to you. You're a good one.
Hey, you might learn something.
Thank you.
All right, thank you both for being with us.